Trump just has not chipped away at our democracy. He has taken a wrecking ball to the very foundation of what makes America great. We have an administration that is openly and brazenly breaking the law and is acting like the Constitution is optional.
Ilhan Omar definitely committed immigration fraud against the United States of America. And I talked to Steve Miller about this actually recently. We're trying to look at what the remedies are. That's the thing that we're trying to figure out is what are the legal remedies now that we know that she's committed immigration fraud?
What I am saying is common sense. You're a visitor. You're not even an American. You're a foreign national. You're here because we gave you a visa to be here temporarily. And now you're out there defending and supporting Hamas, a terrorist organization.
Ilhan Omar stood up at a rally, wrapped herself in the Constitution like a flag, and lectured the rest of America about the rule of law. This is the same woman who may have committed immigration fraud against the United States of America. J.D. Vance is not just throwing accusations around for sport. He is actively working to build a legal case. And a foreign country has already raised its hand and said they will take her. Let that sink in. Stay with me while we watch what happened in the video.
Where in the Constitution does it say that the Secretary of State can override the First Amendment protections of free speech? Is there a footnote that I missed somewhere?
There's no constitutional right to a student visa.
So, but is there a constitutional right? Does it say somewhere that Marco Rubio gets to determine which speech is appropriate and revoke student visas based on what you think constitutes free speech?
There's a statute that says the Secretary of State gets to determine whether someone is a threat. We deny visas every day all over the world.
Do you think that the Immigration and Nationality Act trumps the Constitution of the United States, Mr. Secretary?
Well, Congress can always change the law if you want, but I'm telling you, while I have the authority, I will continue to revoke the visas of these people that come here to tear this country apart.
You said that, Mr. Secretary. Let me reclaim my time because you are talking about revoking student visas based on what somebody says, and that means that you are trumping the legal Supreme Court, the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution of the United States.
No one has a right to a student visa.
Mr. Rubio, why did the administration need to use masked, armed, unidentified agents to whisk somebody off the street and deny her counsel for almost 24 hours after her arrest?
Well, you'll have to ask the agencies that did that work. I'm not responsible for that. I'm responsible for revoking the visas of these people that come to tear this country apart.
Secretary Rubio, I'm talking about this particular case where you revoked the student visa of a Turkish citizen who was a graduate student who wrote an op-ed that you didn't like. And suddenly you allowed for masked men to whisk her off the street. And you have multiple jobs, apparently. You're the national security advisor as well. So don't tell me it's not your job. Who snatches her off the street?
We don't do the snatching, but I can tell you we do the visa revocations.
Let me ask you about the national security consequences of people, masked men on the streets, snatching people off the streets. If these are legitimate law enforcement agents carrying out proper arrests, why are they hiding their identities?
Because then radical crazies will try to hurt them.
So you think that U.S. agents who have almost always gone without face coverings, even when they're arresting some of the country's most dangerous criminals, suddenly have so much to fear from a graduate student who wrote an op-ed that they need to be masked? Is that
that law student was a guest in the United States on a student visa. No one's entitled to a student visa.
So you revoked her student visa based on an op-ed which trumps the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution.
Someone's coming up here to stir up problems on our campus. We're going to revoke their visa.
She didn't do any of that. She wrote an op-ed. She wrote an op-ed, and I'm talking to you about her particular case.
Claims and your claims. Those are not the facts.
Reclaiming my time, you revoked her student visa because she wrote an op-ed.
Would you revoke? We're going to do more.
I have another question for you. Would you revoke the visa of someone in the United States who published claims that, quote, Jews are an untrustworthy and dangerous group? Yes or no?
We will revoke the visa of anyone who's in this country as a guest who's here to stir up trouble.
Are you going to revoke the visa of somebody who made that?
Send me the case. I'll look at it. I'm looking to get crazy people out of our country.
It's not just about revoking. You actually, Secretary Rubio, excuse me, reclaiming my time. Can you explain to me why the Trump administration granted refugee status to Charles Kleinhaus, the white Afrikaner who tweeted that exact statement that I just said? There's the case.
That's not a visa.
You who granted that person to enter the United States.
That's someone that applied here through a totally different process.
Secretary Rubio,
visas are a privilege.
Secretary Rubio,
deny them all the time and we'll revoke them.
You revoked a visa based on an op-ed, and then you allowed for masked men to snatch somebody off the street.
Your time is expired.
Donald Trump has not simply chipped away at our democracy. He has taken a wrecking ball to the very foundation of what makes America great. That is the opening line the left wants you to hear. But here is what they do not want you talking about. J.D. Vance has gone on record, not hinted, not suggested, gone on record, saying he believes Ilhan Omar committed immigration fraud against the United States of America. And Somaliland, an African nation, has formally called for her extradition. A foreign country raised its hand and said they will take her. If that does not tell you everything you need to know about how this woman is perceived beyond our borders, nothing will. Now, let us talk about what is actually being alleged, because the corporate media wants you confused. Nobody is disputing how Omar came to this country. She came as a child refugee from Somalia and applied for citizenship through her father around age 17. That is not the issue. The issue is whether she then turned around and weaponized that same immigration system to fraudulently manufacture a citizenship path for someone with no legal right to it. The specific claim is a sham civil marriage to her alleged brother, designed to get him American citizenship and dissolve the moment the mission was accomplished. Her team calls it a ridiculous lie. Of course they do. That is the playbook. Deny first, cry racism second, hide behind identity politics, and wait for the news cycle to move on. But here is the legal reality the left refuses to touch. Even if you throw the sibling allegation out entirely, if she entered into a marriage solely to create a fraudulent path to citizenship and dissolved it the moment it served its purpose, that is immigration fraud. Full stop. The law does not care about your politics. The law does not care about your identity. Fraud is fraud. Now, watch what happens in that Senate hearing with Marco Rubio. A senator asks him where in the Constitution it says the Secretary of State can override First Amendment protections. Rubio does not flinch. He says there is no constitutional right to a student visa, and he is absolutely correct. Being in this country on a visa is a privilege, not a right. If you come here as a guest and spend that time supporting terrorist organizations or stirring up chaos on campuses, we have every right to show you the door. That is not a violation of free speech. That is the exercise of national sovereignty.
And on the masked agents, Rubio's answer is plain. Radical individuals will target them. In a political climate where federal agents and their families are being doxxed and threatened on a weekly basis, that is not an unreasonable position. But the bigger issue is whether the rule of law is being applied equally. Vance and Rubio are making the argument that it has not been, and that it is time to change that. Here is the bottom line. Even if this never reaches a courtroom, the political pressure is real. The scrutiny it forces is real. And the precedent it sets for cleaning up the Minnesota welfare fraud network is the bigger picture. Omar is almost a symbol at this point. The real prize is dismantling the infrastructure of fraud that has propped people like her up for years. Clean that up, and her entire political base looks a whole lot different. She stood on a stage at a so-called No Kings rally and lectured America about the rule of law. This is the same woman who has shown contempt for this country every single time a microphone is placed in front of her. The audacity is genuinely something to behold. Vance is playing this smart. Rubio is playing this smart. And the American people are watching. If you want to see real accountability come to Washington, smash that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe right now because we are just getting started. Drop a comment below and tell me what was the most shocking moment in this clip for you.